Okay, so hello everyone. I hope you all are doing great today. So, in this occasion, I would like to discuss with you about classroom discourse analysis. So, what is discourse? So, according to Brown and Yulee in 1983, discourse is language in use, meaning the way we utilize language in daily conversation or in daily communication is discourse. It can be in the form of written or spoken, and usually it has specific topic and context. So one discourse can be different from any other discourse. For example, in a traditional market, when we go shopping, people in the traditional market are more likely to use more like casual, informal, unorganized uh, language to make the selling and buying activity happen in more efficient way. So you may hear the seller say something like $3 for two bowl or $3 for free pack, things like that. And then we as the buyer, we are more likely to say things like how much is this instead of may I know how much is this, which is a little bit more formal. And this is actually happen to make the communication activity or the interactions more efficient, right? Because we don't want to say, may I know how much is this when we are buying things in a traditional market because it's not going to be efficient. The seller will look at you and be like, sorry, you know. So uh, the discourse used in the traditional market is most likely to be unorganized, informal, and casual. And it is different, the discourse is different with in any other discourse, like in the classroom discourse, for example. So in the classroom discourse, um, basically the classroom language discourse is like the language used in a classroom setting to make the interaction between teacher and students happen in order to teach and learn during a classroom language interactions. And it is usually used more formal, structured, simplified language compared to the traditional market. So there's a different discourse in here. The classroom language discourse analysis is aimed to investigate the forms and functions of verbal communication used by teachers and students in classroom situations which serve a particular pedagogical purpose. In other words, it is the analysis of what the teacher says and what it indicates in order to enable the teaching process, said by Walls 2011. So what the teachers say in the classroom conveys meaning that we want to know what is exactly the meaning of this and how it can direct the students to do something, right? So that's classroom discourse analysis. As I mentioned earlier, classroom discourse has pattern that distinguish it from any other discourse, like the discourse in the traditional market. And in classroom language discourse, the role of teacher and students are not equal in terms of responsibility and capability, but they are asymmetrical, meaning that one party is higher than the other party. In this case, the teacher position is higher than the students because the teacher is the one who has control and power to instruct the students or to move the students to do something. So it is asymmetrical, not equal, right? So teacher is like the commander of the classroom. They're like the captain. And because the teacher is like the captain or the commander, they their speech has to be loud and clear so that it can be easily understood by the students. That's why sometimes we need to do a speech modification. So speech modification is like the way we as a teacher modify or change a little bit about our speech so that it can be easily transferred and understood by the listener. Some of the speech modification that happen in the classroom language discourse, for example, like modification of the speech sounds, like making our speech like slower or making our voice louder, make more deliberate speech, and use many pauses, use emphasis, etc. And then the teacher also used a great deal of gestures like hand gestures, facial expression like pointing or smiling or things like that, so that the students can like grasp what they are trying to say easily. The teacher also use more simplified vocabulary, the one that is familiar in the student's ear. And the teacher also use simpler and shorter utterance instead of the longer one because it's going to be confusing. And the last one of speech modification is the use of transitions marker to direct students to the next agenda. Things like, okay, moving on, or on to the next point, or okay, let's wrap up, things like that, and it happens in the classroom language discourse. Okay, a little bit more theoretical in here. So in the classroom language discourse, we have things like elements that we call it as an act, which consists of four elements like meta interactive, interactive, turn taking, and occasion. So in the meta interactive consists of marker, things like okay, things like that, to indicate the statement, the finishing or the ending of a statement, or also the beginning of a new statement. We also have meta statement, a statement to bring the previous knowledge of learners. Things like, okay, yesterday we learned about, or I have gave you an example of this, things like that, And then in the interactive part, we have three part, which is initiation, response, and follow-up. Initiation comes in the form of informative, directive, and elicitation. Response comes in the form of acknowledgement, reactions, reply, and the follow-up comes in the form of acceptance, evaluate, and comment. And then we also have turn taking, which takes form in the things like cue, bid, and nomination. And then we also have occasions. We're going to look at this in detail by using example. So let's get to the example.
Yesterday, I gave you guys some guided annotations, things that you were going to be looking for as you were reading through the text. What were some of the things I asked you to do as you were reading? What were some of the techniques or specifics? Let's see, Tress, give me one.
We had to find 5 words that we thought were most important.
We had to find 5 words that we thought were most important. Let's see. Okay. Josh.
3 important sentences.
3 important sentences. So 5 important words, 3 important sentences.
Okay, let's look at the transcript. So remember that every interactions in the classroom discourse consists of IRF structure: initiation, response, and follow-up. So actually, sometimes we don't really have the responses of the initiation because some of the initiation doesn't really require response, or maybe it requires response but no one responds. So I think it isn't always complete, but we can see the complete example of this. There are like 2 complete IRF that I already highlight in that. Okay, so just like what you see in the first 4 rows of the transcript, we can see that the teacher gives meta statement, reminding the students about what they have done in the previous classroom, in the previous meeting, and then what they will do in the current meeting. And that is meta statement. And it doesn't actually require responses because basically it's just a statement. For row number 5, 6, and 7 is the complete example of IRF. So we can see that the teacher initiated the conversation by directing the students to give an example of things to do during reading. And then the student respond that by saying, we have to find like 5 words that we thought were most important. And then the teacher reply or give follow-up in the form of comment by repeating what the student had said. So that is actually the example of IRF. Another example of complete IRF structure is in the row 9 to row 12. So same as before, the teacher nominates the students to give one example to do things during reading, and then the teacher give comment by repeating what the students had said. But actually, the teacher can also do another follow-up by giving, for example, evaluation. So the teacher can actually say things like, okay, well done, or okay, that's a great job, things like that. So this type of discourse, the initiation by the teacher, the student responses, the follow-up, are part of the classroom language discourse. And this is actually the unique part about classroom language discourse because the pattern, the starting point or the pattern that is usually start by the teacher, respond by the students, and a follow-up by the teacher only happen in the classroom language discourse. So that is actually the unique part of it. So let's wrap up. So we have learned that classroom language discourse is goal-oriented, in which it relies on teacher to set the goal because teachers are the one who have the power. And then the teacher also control what, when, who, and where, and for how long someone can say something in the classroom discussion. And then the learners take their cues from the teacher and rarely initiate responses because it is usually done by the teacher. And the last one that It is important to understand the IRF structure so that we can vary the interaction model more and introduce type of sequence. It is also great to model spoken language in a world outside of the classroom, suggesting ways of constructing dialogues for teaching, role plays, for practicing conversation, and etc. So I hope that through learning about classroom language discourse, we can learn more and we can make our classroom interactive and interesting. Um, Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Thank you.